Welcome to Two Worlds, One Life, the podcast where we explore the big questions about how and where we choose to live. I'm Alex.
And I'm Jamie. Today, we're diving into one of the oldest debates in human civilization, city life versus village life. Which one is better? Which one makes us happier? Which one is actually good for us?
And here's the thing, there is no single right answer, we know that. But what we want to do today is really pull apart both worlds, look at the beauty in each of them, the struggles in each of them, and maybe by the end help you figure out where you belong.
Exactly. And whether you grew up in a noisy apartment block with a million neighbors, or you grew up somewhere so quiet you could hear the grass grow, I think you're going to find something in this conversation that hits home.
So let's start at the very beginning. When we say city life and village life, what are we actually picturing? Jamie, paint me the picture. Close your eyes and describe a city morning.
Okay, city morning. It's 6:45 a.m., your alarm goes off. Actually, it doesn't even need to go off because the street outside your window already woke you up. There's a delivery truck reversing, someone's playing music 2 floors down, a siren somewhere in the distance. You check your phone, already 15 notifications. You make a coffee if you even have time, or you grab one from the cafe downstairs that's already packed. You're on the subway in 30 minutes, surrounded by people, reading, scrolling, listening to podcasts, everyone in their own little bubble in a sea of thousands.
That is exactly it. And now flip it. Village morning.
Village morning. First thing you hear are birds, maybe a rooster if it's really rural. It's light outside and it feels early, genuinely early, not artificially early. You open a window and there's actual fresh air. You probably know your neighbors. You might even wave to one of them from across the garden. Breakfast is slower. There's no rush the way there is in the city. The pace is just different.
And already, right there, you can feel why people are so divided on this. Because some people heard that city morning and thought, yes, that energy, I need that. And some people heard it and thought, that sounds exhausting. And the reverse is true for the village.
Right. Some people heard birds and fresh air and thought, peace, finally. And others thought, I would go absolutely crazy within a week.
So let's talk about what drives people to cities first, because despite everything, cities keep growing. More than half the world's population now lives in urban areas, and that number keeps climbing, so something is pulling people in.
Opportunity is the big one. Jobs, careers, industries, they're concentrated in cities. If you want to work in finance, tech, media, fashion, law, you almost have to be in a city. The networks are there, the companies are there, the chances of getting noticed and climbing are there.
And it's not just professional opportunity, it's cultural opportunity too. Think about what a city offers: theaters, galleries, live music, restaurants from every corner of the world, universities, festivals, museums. You could spend a lifetime in a major city and never run out of new things to experience.
There's also the anonymity factor, and I know that sounds like a strange thing to want, anonymity, but for a lot of people, especially those who came from very small, tight-knit communities, the ability to just be yourself in a city without everyone knowing your business is genuinely liberating.
That's such a real point. In a village, everyone knows everyone, which can be wonderful, we'll get to that, but it can also be suffocating. If you're someone who is figuring out who you are, maybe you're LGBTQ, maybe you have unconventional beliefs or a lifestyle that doesn't fit the local norm, a city can feel like the first place you can breathe freely.
And then there's access. Healthcare, education, infrastructure. Cities typically have more of it and better of it. If you need a specialist doctor, a good school, fast internet, reliable transport, cities win.
Now, let's be honest about the other side of city life, because it's not all exciting mornings and career opportunities. Cities are hard, they're expensive, they're lonely in a strange, paradoxical way.
The loneliness thing is something that really surprises people who move to cities for the first time. You're surrounded by millions of people, and somehow you can go days without a meaningful human connection. Everyone's busy, everyone has their own life. Building real friendships takes real effort and real time, and time is the one thing city people never feel like they have.
And the cost of living is another massive issue. In most major cities around the world, London, New York, Sydney, Mumbai, Tokyo, housing costs have become almost absurd. Young people are spending 60–70% of their income on rent. They're living in tiny apartments, sharing with multiple people, commuting for hours. The dream of the city is real, but so is the grind.
And let's talk about stress. Cities are loud, they're polluted, they're fast. Studies have consistently shown that city living is linked to higher rates of anxiety, depression, and stress-related illness. The stimulation never really stops. Your nervous system never fully gets a break.
Even the commute alone. Research shows that long commutes are one of the biggest predictors of unhappiness, and yet millions of people do it every single day for years because that's just the deal you make when you choose the city.
So now let's really dive into village life, because I think village life gets a little bit of an unfair reputation. Like it's just for people who couldn't make it in the city, or for people who've given up, or for retirees.
That reputation is completely outdated, and honestly, since the pandemic, there's been a massive shift in how people think about where they live. Remote work opened up this possibility for people, especially younger people, to ask themselves, do I actually need to be in a city?
And a lot of them are answering no. We've seen huge movements of people from city centers to smaller towns, villages, rural areas, people who brought their city jobs with them and traded their cramped apartment for a garden and a slower pace of life.
So what does village life actually offer that city life can't? Let's be specific.
Community, real community. In a village, people look out for each other in a way that's almost impossible to replicate in a city. Your neighbors know your name. If something happens to you, if you get sick, if you lose someone, people show up. There's a social fabric that holds people together.
And that has enormous benefits for mental and physical health. Loneliness is now being called a public health epidemic in many countries, and village communities, where social connection is built into everyday life, where you bump into people at the market, where there's a local pub or a church hall where everyone gathers, they protect against that loneliness in a way cities struggle to.
Then there's the environment. Villages are greener, literally. More trees, more open space, cleaner air. People in rural areas tend to spend more time outdoors, walking, gardening, being in nature. And the science on this is overwhelming. Time in nature reduces cortisol levels, improves mood, boosts immune function, and just makes people feel better.
The pace is different too, and this is huge. Village life runs on a different clock. There's time to cook a proper meal, time to sit and talk to someone without checking your phone every 5 minutes, time to be bored, which sounds negative but is actually incredibly important for creativity and mental rest.
Children who grow up in villages often have freedoms that city kids don't. They can roam, explore, be outside unsupervised. There's less traffic, less danger, more space. That kind of childhood builds confidence and independence.
Now, and we have to do this, let's be honest about the challenges of village life too.
Absolutely. The economic reality of village life can be very tough. Jobs are fewer. If your industry or career path doesn't have remote options, your choices are limited. Young people often leave villages because they simply have to. There isn't the work and there aren't the opportunities they need to build a life.
And services can be a real problem. Healthcare is often far away. Schools may be smaller with fewer resources. Public transport in rural areas is often minimal or non-existent, which means you need a car, and that's a cost many people can't afford.
There's also this social dynamic we mentioned before. Everyone knowing everyone can be genuinely difficult. Gossip travels fast in small communities. If you fall out with someone, there's no disappearing into a crowd of strangers. You see that person at the shop, at the school gate, at every local event. Conflicts linger in a way they simply don't in cities.
And diversity, this is an important one. Many villages are less culturally and socially diverse than cities. For people who grew up in multicultural environments or who have specific needs in terms of the communities they want to be part of, villages can feel isolating in a different way to cities.
So here we are, about halfway through our conversation, and I think what's becoming clear is that neither world is perfect. Every advantage of city life comes with a trade-off, and every advantage of village life does too.
Which is why I want to talk about something that I find really fascinating. The idea that this might not be an either-or question at all, because a lot of people are now finding ways to live across both worlds.
The hybrid model. This is really becoming a thing. People who live in smaller towns or villages, but travel into the city for work a couple of days a week. People who keep an apartment in a city for work periods, but have their main home somewhere rural. People who are deliberately choosing mid-sized towns, not quite a village, not quite a metropolis, that give them some of both.
And I think technology is making all of this more possible than ever before. 10 years ago, if you worked in tech or finance or media, you had to be in the city, full stop. Now, a huge percentage of that work can be done from anywhere with good internet. The geography of opportunity is genuinely changing.
It's also worth talking about life stages, because where we want to live changes as we move through life. A 23-year-old who wants to launch a career, meet people, experience culture, the city makes total sense. A family with young kids who want space, safety, and community, a village or smaller town might be perfect. A retiree who wants peace, nature, and a slower pace. Rural living could be ideal.
We're not the same person at every age, and our ideal environment isn't fixed. One of the most liberating things is giving yourself permission to change where you live as your life changes, not feeling like you have to commit to one world forever.
I love that. And I think what this whole conversation is pointing toward is this. Know yourself. Know what you need to thrive. Not what looks good on Instagram, not what your parents expect, not what your friends are doing, what actually fills your life with meaning, connection, health, and joy.
Because I've met people who are deeply unhappy in cities, grinding away at a life that looks impressive from the outside but feels hollow on the inside. And I've met people who stayed in their village because they were afraid to leave and spent decades wondering what could have been.
And I've met people who moved from a city to a village in their 30s and said it was the best decision they ever made. And I've met people who grew up in a tiny village, moved to a huge city, and felt like they finally came alive.
There is no universal answer, but there are questions you can ask yourself, and we want to leave you with a few of them.
Question 1. What does your ideal day actually look like? Not your ideal vacation, your ideal ordinary Tuesday. Where does it take place?
Question 2. Where do you feel most like yourself? Not most productive, not most impressive, most authentically you.
Question 3. What do you need from your community? Do you need familiarity and depth, or do you need freedom and variety?
And question 4. What are you willing to trade? Because both worlds ask you to give something up. The city asks for your quiet, your space, your money, and sometimes your sanity. The village asks for some of your opportunity, your convenience, and your anonymity. What trade are you willing to make?
These aren't easy questions, but they're worth sitting with, really sitting with. Maybe even turning off the podcast for a minute and just thinking about it.
We live in an incredible moment in history where more people than ever have some degree of choice about where they live. That's a privilege worth taking seriously.
And wherever you are right now, city, village, somewhere in between, there is beauty available to you. There is community available to you. There is a good life available to you. It's just about learning how to find it where you are and being brave enough to change when something isn't working.
On that note, thank you so much for spending this time with us today on Two Worlds, One Life.
If this conversation sparked something for you, share it with someone who's thinking about where they want to live. Send it to a friend who's debating a big move, or just keep it in your own back pocket for the next time you're standing in traffic jams wishing you were somewhere else, or standing in a field wishing you were somewhere more exciting.
Both feelings are valid. Both feelings are human. We'll see you next time.
Take care of yourselves, wherever you are.